May I open by saying this game is gorgeous? Because this game is gorgeous. Unreal, one might say. First and foremost, I'd like to say I'll be keeping away from major plot spoilers and bosses as much as I can and try briefly cover everything Fallen Order has to offer. I really enjoyed the story. I wasn't expecting it to be as great as it was originally, but I seen the gameplay before release and thought, ooh, well, I could get down with this, and I was not wrong in that assumption. The story takes place 5 years after good old Sidious put out Order 66, and lands you in the boots of Cal Kestis, a former Padawan living a life of exile. Cal and his buddy Prouf get ordered to go fix things and do the movement tutorial, until you find an X-Wing. Then a case of wrong time, wrong place happens and Cal finds himself having to use the Force or let Prouf die. Prouf, unaware of this, brings it up and is told to keep quiet for both their sakes. En route back home, Cal catches a few Z's and has a Force dream with a little hint of your BFF is gonna rat you out, before Jaro Tapal, your former master who looks fucking badass I gotta say, pops out and tells you to trust only in the Force before waking up and being rudely interrupted by the Empire. Everyone gets surrounded up and we get to meet the Inquisitors, the second sister and the ninth sister. Prouf steps up and you think he's gonna screw you but ends up becoming all space Braveheart and gets a lightsaber to the chest for his effort. Soz Prouf. Cal tries to lunge in and show off his shiny but gets immediately fucked and thrown off a cliff, but luckily Ex Machina friends arrive to help you and you get the Piccolo out of dodge. On board, you meet your saviors, Seer and Grease, who give you the lowdown on what's going on and ask you to help restore the Jedi Order, and most important of all, to become a freedom fighter and help save the last of its kind. The Majestic Space Goose! Or something along those lines at least. On the real though, the story is a treat, and there's a few set pieces that are simply incredible. It's not going to break new ground on the hero's tale, but the formula was used well, and expectations were most definitely exceeded. The best comparisons I could compare this to is somewhere between God of War and a FromSoft title. Got your platforming, action, posture mechanics, force powers, and a couple of puzzles thrown in for good measure. But hey, what's with EA and running though? Can't seem to make it look anything like you're bombing to drop the kids off at the pool. Traversing the worlds doesn't feel like a chore. I won't say it doesn't get repetitive at times, however they do try switch up the variety through making certain methods of getting around fit the environment of the planet that you're on. Between jumping, climbing, swinging and wall running, you'll find yourself backtracking eventually, but shortcuts help shed some time when you learn the ability to continue. I just want to get back to the top of the slides faster. Whee! Now, the action is what we're all about. You'll be whipping out your lightsaber in no time to take on a decent array of enemies, from stormtroopers to the indigenous wildlife of each planet, big and small boys included to chop down, fling off cliffs, and just show them how stylish you can be. Your lightsaber is going to be your trusty companion, and not too long in you can unleash your inner Darth Maul. Attacks are simple enough, got your light, heavies and specials, which you'll expand on through the skill tree. A small critique I have is the reasoning behind heavy attacks using Force Meter. It's not a big deal, but since the specials also require Force Meter to use, I feel some opportunity for having more varied combos has been taken away a little bit, especially seeing as early to mid-game you don't have a lot of Force to work with. Again, a minor critique, it won't really take away from the experience. I'm just being fucking me. Blocking is vital, and it's tied to the posture system, where you have an extra meter for how many hits you and enemies can take while holding block or executing a well-timed parry to stagger and take a chunk of meter. Practice your timing, it'll be a bitch, but it'll be rewarded with satisfaction and nice cinematic kills. Be prepared to die a lot before you can do this on some of the trickier enemies. Looking at you, dual-handed guy. Prick. Blocking lasers is pretty fun though. Let them bounce off and hear the audible confusion, or time it right and send the bolt right back between their eyes. Fantastic. Just about all attacks can be parried, but when you see a red glow, make like a Limp Bizkit and keep on rolling, baby. Force powers? Well, it wouldn't really be a Star Wars game without them. They're going to allow you to push, pull, slow time, and wrap everything up in a cozy little robe. Get acquainted, because whether you're fighting or making your way towards one, or maybe spelunking in ancient ruins solving puzzles, they're going to get a lot of use. Not much I can say in them, they'll do what they say on the tin. You get them as you progress, and they get pretty good once you invest a few points into the skill tree too. Customization and unlocks are pretty much one and the same in this. You could cease to go out your way to collect just about anything except for yellow chests and force echoes containing upgrades, but for everything else, it's purely aesthetic. Not a bad thing at all, mind you. I quite enjoy being a fashionista. There's plenty of ponchos for Cal and colours for BD and the Mantis, though I think every time you see a workbench, you'll be building your lightsaber just the way you want it. If you find all the parts to choose from, that is. It also appears in cutscenes, and it is glorious! I won't go too in depth on the characters. All the voice acting was phenomenal, and developed with each other well throughout the course of the story. Cal is a grief-stricken Padawan with a chip on his shoulder, strong sense of justice, battling with his feelings, and looking to prove his worth, and overall, is a good chap. But he can't really seem to stop playing with his hair. Seer and Grease are your saviours and companions on your quest across the galaxy. Seer is the serious one, always trying to spur you along, guide you, inform you, and in general, be the mammy of the group. Grease is the proud owner of the ship, the Mantis, possibly the only love in his life. He's grumpy, old, always hungry, comes off super awkward more often than not, and always has a complaint to throw in somewhere. But he's sound. We'll keep him. Beady? He is cute as hell, and I will not have one bad word said against him. He's just cute doing anything. Jumping in bins, finding you loot, chilling on your back, scurrying off to scan something for you. The wee guy also has better plot development and emotion than all of Shenmue. The second sister, who wouldn't look out of place dominating the stage at a metal concert, or you in the bedroom. She's 100% badass, the main antagonist trying to murder you and always steals the scene whenever she shows up. Possibly my favourite character, her arc is fantastic, a bitch to fight, and she loves monologuing. The supporting cast, among a few I don't want to mention to save as much plot as possible, all do great work in their roles to bring the world and the story to life as much as they can. The only letdown were the Wookiees. Their world is on fire and they look incredibly malnourished and sad, and that makes me sad. I know, guys, I know. We're gonna free that space duck if it's the last thing I do. As I said earlier, this game is gorgeous, and joining that with the ambience each planet has to offer, coupled by the soundtrack behind it, and oh yeah, you've got yourself a winner. That could be the inner bias talking, but even if you don't enjoy Star Wars too much, I'm sure everyone could enjoy the scenery. Take a walk and check out the local wildlife, culture, awe-inspiring views, or whatever the Empire has left at least. I can't begin to explain the goose pimples that emerge the first time you enter a darkened room and use your lightsaber to light the way, getting your Dora on to explore every nook and cranny until finally Geronimoing down a hole and getting railed from behind. Couldn't imagine it any other way. There are a few different planets you'll be visiting on your travels, some familiar, some not so much. Each one has a slightly different feel to it and can sometimes be confusing to navigate, however the map is highly effective to get the lay of the land and point you in the right direction, while also keeping track of all the discoveries you've made so far in each section. Kinda like Metroid Prime, but not as janky. Meditation points are the new checkpoints and serve as the same purpose as bonfires. Heal yourself, replenish stims, and access the skill tree. When you exit after resting, all enemies are going to be waiting for you. Upon release, I do believe there were a few, from common crashing, stormtroopers forgetting about you mid-combat, AI getting stuck in obscure places, you getting stuck in obscure places, glitching out if you tried to hop over a map and just get stuck because you went to a meditation point and then you weren't able to get back out, so you'd probably have to restart the game. Oh, how fun. Dropped frames and other anomalies. But being honest, I didn't encounter too many, if nearly any of these throughout my playthrough. Maybe one crash in 30 hours, Stormtroopers forgetting about me sometimes and dropped frames, but the latter could just have been my own PC limitations. Most of these seem to be patched now, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job at trying to fix whatever they can. So any that I've left out, be sure to let me know. The one area Fallen Order does fall short on is endgame content. Sure, you can travel back to each planet and collect all the things that you haven't collected and grind out enemies to get your final few skill points, but that's about it. Even a New Game Plus would go a long way in making the experience a little more enjoyable just to get the 100% if you're so inclined, and even utilise the skills that you've learned. A challenge arena similar to Batman's Arkham series or X title where you can take on waves of enemies, bosses, etc. just to practice your combat and flesh out what works best on what. I'd like if they made combat a bit more fluid too, add in a few more attack variations and make jump useful please, because there's very few limited areas that you can actually use it in combat. Other than that, if you try vault over anyone, you're just going to get Anakin. Maybe a possibility to dual wield sabers too. Technically there is, but it's a cop-out force attack, which is great and all, though I feel silently taunted by enemies who dual wield against me. And the Force Unleashed was so good! Come on! Mainly endgame content is badly needed. That's my whole real gripe with it. There's a lot of potential to be had here, and please, for the love of God, will somebody tell these guys that non-skippable cutscenes should never be a thing. It just never. I fucked up that word, but I don't care. So annoyed right now. All in all, I really enjoyed playing this game. And like I've said it enough, you already know my take. But I would recommend this for anyone who enjoys the play style of it, or Star Wars, maybe both, whichever. You will like it. I swear down you will. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. Looking at around 15 hours for the story, and whatever spelunking you want to do in between, you could probably get that to 20 or 25 depending on how casual or speedrunny you want to go. But sure, it's not as long as other titles, but I'd have to argue it not having an open world makes it a neat package and it plays to its strengths without the extra padding. Endgame content would be a treat, so for that we have to lie in wait for some DLC, or even better, a sequel where they give a bit of endgame content too. But look, we just have to wait for that. There are many directions that they could go in with the story and for the gameplay improvements alike. So for my rating, I'm going to give this an 85%. There's room for improvement, but it done such a good job. That's what it is. There you go. Anyway, this has been my review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. If you made it this far, I thank you so much for watching and hope you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, it's only my opinion.
Anyone else chilly? Chilly troopers don't get named Stormtrooper of the Year, 7173. So you're not chilly.